the trinity of an atom: electron, proton, neutron. The holy trinity of culture is called sound, light, and form. What is vibration? Vibration is a wave. It's a wave that moves through different frequencies. Frequencies. What is frequencies? Is the amount of time that each one of the waves need to repeat itself. So a wave can also behave as a particle. So we can imagine that in this wave, we have a particle that is moving in different frequencies. This particle here moves in the shape of a wave like this. And as faster it moves, meaning as higher frequency it has, it creates what we call energy. Energy is the movement of a particle on a wave of vibration, like the light that moves in waves through space. So we have here that this vibration generates an energy according into how this vibration moves. So here the energy, which is this movement, the constant movement of the vibration, will have different levels of vibration according to the frequencies. Low frequency, high frequency, the time in which it repeats the wave. And that creates different kinds of energy. So here we have how the energy is manifested according to the frequencies of a vibration. Also, on the other hand, we have that a vibration has a positive and a negative, positive and negative, positive and negative. So this means that this vibration is creating polarity. And polarity attracts to one another because negative needs the positive to keep going. To keep going. That makes the energy organize itself in polarity as a complement from positive to negative, which makes that some of these waves make themselves as a negative particle and some of them as a positive particle, which we call electron and proton. From a wave, they become particles. That creates an atom, which is the base of matter. It's not different from each level. For example, for us in the third dimension, this structure is really low. So this means that these particles are really close to one another, very dense. But the same structure is the one creating a being in the seventh dimension. How? Because these two, they don't behave as particles, they behave as waves. And they are very apart from one another. You can say that the spirit gives place to the possibility of manifest the soul. And the soul, in its different states of vibration, can give birth to the reality of the body. We have to remember that the universe is mind. Universe is mind, divided in three aspects: the subconscious, the unconscious, and the conscious. But it's all about concepts. So when I am conscious, I am aware of all this. When I am unconscious, I am aware of only two of them. And when I live through the subconscious, I only relate to the body. So now we can understand, for example, that in vibration, we can have many different chords, strings, that are vibrating in resonance to one another. So as we can see here, the vibration that is created by these strings are manifested in energy by the positive and the negative that shares data and information because of the pulses, the electrical discharges of this data. So these positive and negative, when they get the order, when the energy starts to get in order, what happens is that they create molecular structures, molecular structures like these ones, or the base of life, like this shape, guanine, cytosine, thymine, and adenine for the DNA, for example. So what could happen here is if that one of these strings starts to vibrate in a low vibration, they can start to create dissonance with other ones and start to curl one another, creating a knot. This knot can, for example, create this dissonance, making that some of the ones that before used to be positive become negative, with which the structure is broken. So what we start to feel here when it breaks is that we start to be ill, sick. What is now a conflict in the genetics or in the physical way, in the physical aspect, it came from a problem in the energy of our body that came from a conflict in resonance, in the harmony. So why a change of vibration can happen? Because of where we live, our daily experience. What we experience every day takes us to vibrate in a certain vibration that takes us to live what we experience every day. So the state of our vibration is according to what we believe, what we feel, what we say, what we do. It is related to the actions and the beliefs that we have over those actions. Our perception of the world allows the world to change our vibration. A person that is watching all the time negative things of the world will leave negative things of the world. And why is this? Because whatever vibrates and resonates in our daily life goes to the energetical level. The level of vibration is related to the beliefs, the thoughts, and the perception of things. The level of vibration is the one that analyzes and reflects on the things. This is why the level of vibration is related to the spiritual world and also to the mental aspect of the being. The energetical level of the being is related with the emotions and so the soul of the being. What does the soul? The soul interprets in pulses, in electrical pulses, what the spirit is perceiving. And those things that are interpreted by the spirit and translated in energy by the soul modify and manifest in the body. So the spirit is constantly observing the possibilities of what exists. The energy, the soul, is the one that interprets these perceptions, interprets them, and express them. And the body in the matter is the one that manifests that expression or acts or reacts to that expression. To restart with this idea, a dot or a line is what describes the first dimension. So the first dimension can be seen like this, like a dot or a line, because basically this dot is the beginning or the end of one line. So if you put this line in front like this, you will see a dot. So basically you can see it this way. So one extreme of the first dimension is the alpha and the other extreme is the omega. So if we just take one dot, we will see this here, cutting the hemisphere, having alpha in one side and the omega in the other side. Okay, so that would be the kind of the two positive and negative of the first dimension. If this here is the first dimension, the second dimension will be this. So this line here is the first dimension, but then the second dimension will be the forms, the shapes, will be the figures of the things, is the planification of the things. Okay, so that here would be a square, which is the basis of other creations after that. And then we have the third dimension, which will be seen in this way. So the third dimension, what is going to be? The depth. So here we have height. So we can say that, for example, the first dimension will be the height, the second dimension will be the weight, and the third dimension will be the depth. But until the depth doesn't exist, there is no object, there is only measurement. So depth, it's also the word for profound. Profound comes from the Latin going into the depth, going into the deepest part. That's the meaning. So how do we get the depth? We get it by the fractalization of the second dimension. When the second dimension fractalizes itself, we get the depth. Sometimes many of us in school had experience a teacher of drawing that teach you how to make the depth in a drawing, the vanishing point of a drawing. Okay, so it's useful to talk about the perspective of the things. So the vanishing point basically would be the fractalization of the second dimension. The vanish point, it can be in the center or whatever. We can put it here in the middle of this place. What I'm going to do to connect the perspectives is to connect this dot with the vertices of the square. And now what I'm going to do is to fractalize the cube to go towards the place, the dot. Suddenly a cube became like a portal. So the only thing that we just did was to fractalize the structure of a square towards a dot. So the first dimension and the second dimension got united to create the third dimension. And this is the way in which you can draw something with depth, with something that is profound. So from where the third dimension comes from an imaginary illusion. It's an optic illusion. So you have here one fractal, another one here, another one here, another one, and bigger. Okay. So here with this auric structure, we can also see how the fractals starts to make this illusion, this idea of depth in the reality, creating the third dimension. So we can create more and more and more, and this will give us an idea of depth by fractalization. So what this is saying to us is that everything that creates by fractalization is an illusion. Let's go back to the most easier fractal of all. In the first dimension, we have one pole, one axis in positive and negative, and we add another two to create in the second dimension the image of a triangle. So to make a fractal, let's make another vanishing point. So let's connect the axis. So now we have a tetrahedron. First dimension, the line. Second dimension, the triangle. Third dimension, the tetrahedron. So we can create new points of vanishing points. Okay. So we will have again the same structure inside. We can also connect it like this through different vanishing points. So what I just done here is to connect the same dots to expand into a new one. So this is a fractalization. Okay, a fractalization is to create once and again the same structure. A fractalization is a fraction of one whole, of one part. So this here is like a fraction of the whole. That's a fractalization. So it's when you say 2/3, for example. What do you know like this that has a negative and a positive, and a third one that just appears to give meaning and sense to these other two? Electron, proton, neutron. So mostly the basic structure. The basic structure of what? Of matter. So this one got united, and this one here spins all the time. So we have another trinity that, for example, is 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogen, water. And we also have this. And the structure here that will shape carbon. So when we start to replicate this structure, we have the base of life, which is the carbon. And here we have water. So as you see, the basis of everything is just positive and negative, connected, positive and negative connected, and they create a figure, and that figure, when it fractalizes, starts to create a shape, a form, depth. So what is matter? Matter is basically an illusion that is fractalized. We are an illusion, a hologram of an illusion that has been fractalized. So basically the third dimension is a distortion, a constant distortion of the second dimension. So this means that the third dimension is a hologram projected from the second dimension. Being the second dimension, this mind that is creating figures, concepts, trying to get a pattern of this concept, and you start to go deeper and deeper. The mind starts to find different probabilities, different ways to understand this figure. So it starts to fractalize it much and more and more and more and more, and suddenly it's going deep and deep and deep, creating this concept of matter, this concept of the third dimension. And what is this third dimension? Is the tool that the universal mind has in order to experience this depth, this deep concepts and figures. The third dimension basically is where the mind practices, learn, where the mind is trying to understand itself to play.